Okay, let's jump straight into this explainer. Whenever we hear about the new era of UK-India trade, it's pretty much always about exports, right? Outbound investments, international growth. But what we're going to explore today is a massive kind of hidden shift in domestic competition. This new trade era isn't just an outbound story. It's actually all about a rising threat right in India's own backyard.
Because there's a really basic dynamic we got to face here. Trade works both ways. While Indian companies are confidently looking outward to grab market share in the UK and beyond, global heavyweights are doing the exact same thing in reverse. They are literally eyeing India's massive domestic market. And what that means is the competitive environment at home, the safe harbor a lot of domestic businesses totally rely on, is fundamentally changing. The opportunity is definitely here, but so is the absolute fiercest competition on the planet.
We actually have to reframe our entire mindset if we're going to survive this shift. Historically, Indian manufacturers and service providers really only had to ask one question: how do we compete with other Indian companies? But asking how to beat local rivals, it's just not enough anymore. The new urgent question you've got to ask yourself is, are we ready for global standards right here in our home market? You have to figure out if your whole business can actually go toe-to-toe with international heavyweights on your own turf.
And who's actually driving this whole thing? Well, it isn't policymakers in suits. It's the global Indian consumer. This transformation is happening right now, live, in the hands of digitally connected consumers in places like Bengaluru, Mumbai, Delhi, and Hyderabad. These folks aren't living in a bubble. They've got the entire world right at their fingertips, and they can instantly compare products, prices, and reviews from literally everywhere.
Because they're so connected, these consumers are judging your stuff against a brutal global scorecard instantly. It's no longer just about whether a gadget turns on or does the bare minimum. It's about premium design, a totally frictionless digital checkout, real sustainability, and absolute brand trust. An Indian product isn't just competing with another locally made item anymore, it's up against the consumer's global benchmark of what good actually looks like. So that old mantra of, it's good enough for the domestic market, that is officially dead.
So, what does that mean for how we build things? It means there is absolutely zero excuse for a product made for an Indian consumer to be fundamentally worse than one boxed up for export. That artificial, imaginary wall between made for India and made for export just has to disappear. The ambition moving forward has to be creating world-class products and services built in India that are perfectly suited for anyone, anywhere in the world.
Which brings us to a really harsh reality. Why do good products fail? You'd probably assume it's a factory defect, right? Like a quality control issue on the assembly line, but it's not. A product can leave the factory absolutely flawless, 100% perfect, and still completely crash and burn in the market. Why? Because the packaging feels cheap, the mobile app crashes when you try to pay, or customer service just completely ghosts you.
It's because fragmented internal teams are literally destroying your value. Think about it. If your marketing team is out there hyping up a luxury premium product, but your procurement team is quietly buying the absolute cheapest raw materials to save a few bucks, your value chain is broken. If manufacturing is world-class, but the product completely ignores what the customer actually wants today, you lose. It's the classic, painful scenario where one department gets a win, but the whole business takes a massive hit.
And that highlights a fundamental truth about modern commerce. A customer doesn't care about your internal departments. They experience one single unified business, period. If a customer complaint never makes it back to product development, or if leadership is totally blind to these silos within their own walls, you just bleed global competitiveness across the whole chain. You don't build or ruin a competitive edge in one single department. It happens across the entire end-to-end journey.
Now let's talk about the elephant in the room: cost. For decades, India's cost advantage built this incredible economic engine. But if you think you can fend off international giants just by slapping a low-price sticker on your goods, you are walking straight into a trap. Being the cheapest is absolutely not going to guarantee your future competitiveness.
And why is that? Because these international competitors are not just shipping in cheaper goods, they are bringing an absolute arsenal with them. We're talking deep customer research, operations run by AI, insanely integrated business models, and fully traceable supply chains. You just cannot sustainably beat that kind of deep integrated value simply by slashing your prices. You literally have to level up. So, to actually survive this, your whole business playbook needs a complete rewrite. You've got to ditch the historical minimum standards and stop working in those functional silos we talked about. The only real way to move from just scraping by domestically to achieving true global dominance is to deliver genuine, high-value experiences. And that means hitting data-driven global benchmarks powered by totally connected value chains. With all these looming threats, it's super easy to panic. And honestly, a lot of businesses do just that. They mistakenly jump straight into buying some insanely expensive software system where they launch a random AI project just to feel like they're doing something. But actually, scratch that. Before you start ripping up individual parts of your company, we need to ask a much more basic question first. Where do you actually start?
The secret lies in this really simple but profound idea. You cannot transform what you cannot see. Before you even think about implementing AI or aggressively cutting costs, you have to completely understand how your entire business creates value, or where it loses it. You need to map the whole journey, literally from the very first spark of market demand, all the way to the final customer experiencing your product.
And that is exactly where a value chain diagnosis comes into play, by mapping out every single step, from your initial strategy and sourcing, down into the gritty details of manufacturing, all the way through to sales and customer experience. Leadership finally turns the lights on. You can suddenly see exactly where things are disconnected, where the bottlenecks are hiding, and crucially, where global competitors are going to exploit your weak spots.
Because let's be real, business problems almost never exist in a vacuum. A proper diagnosis means looking at things through multi-dimensional lenses. Think about it. A packaging flaw isn't just bad design. It messes up your logistics costs, it hurts brand trust, and it probably ruins your sustainability targets, all at once. By analyzing everything through specific lenses, like where revenue is leaking, where AI could help, or where customers are getting frustrated, you find the exact root of the bleeding.
But here's a reality check. Not every single minor annoyance needs to turn into a massive multi-million rupee project. Once you have your diagnosis, the real goal is to take all that usual corporate chaos and turn it into a super clear, highly prioritized transformation roadmap. You have to be ruthless and focus only on the specific issues that actually matter most to your survival and growth. To build that roadmap, you've got to ask some really tough prioritization questions. Where exactly are we bleeding margin? Which specific products desperately need a redesign? Where are we falling completely short of international standards? Answering these honestly ensures you're spending your transformation budget on actual business reality and competitive need, not just, executive guesswork.
Now, I want to be super clear about this next point. The goal here is absolutely not to just copy international companies. Nobody wants you to be a corporate clone. Instead of blindly imitating the West, the real, massive opportunity here is to take India's incredibly unique strengths, like our massive scale, unbelievable tech talent, and unyielding entrepreneurial energy, and combine them with those world-class benchmarks. Because that is the ultimate winning formula. That is exactly how a threat turns into a massive opportunity. When you take India's undeniable home court advantages, the huge scale, the specialized talent, a booming consumer market, and you fuse them with global necessities like end-to-end excellence, AI mastery, and deep customer understanding, you create an unstoppable powerhouse capable of dominating both at home and abroad. This whole UK-India trade era is a huge catalyst, but it does come with a serious warning. The greatest threat is remaining unchanged while the competitive environment changes around you. The real danger isn't the international competition itself, it's you standing completely still while the ground moves. This new era is only going to reward the companies that figure out their value chain right now, before intense market pressure forces a frantic, totally unplanned reaction.
So you really don't have to wait for the competition to kick your door down to start getting ready. You need to know exactly where your value chain stands today. Ask yourself, are you genuinely ready to face unyielding global standards on your very own home turf? If you aren't sure, take a deep dive into the source material we've covered in this explainer to start diagnosing your own value chain. Because trust me, the race has already started.